She gave shelter to a tattered cowboy, only to discover he was the missing billionaire tycoon. Before we go further, please ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories like this one. The wind carried a soft chill across the plains that evening. Emma had just stoked the last log in the fireplace, its glow casting gentle shadows across the worn wooden walls of her farmhouse. The day's work was done. The animals fed, the tools stored, the silence settling in like an old friend. Twilight bled across the sky, brushing the horizon in dusky blues and golds. Then came the knock. Not loud, not hurried, just a single, deliberate sound that sent a pulse through the quiet. Emma paused, hands still near the fire poker. Visitors were rare out here, especially unannounced. She crossed the living room and opened the door slowly, half expecting wind or an animal. Instead, standing in the fading light was a man who looked like he'd walked through miles of dust and silence. His coat hung in tatters. Mud clung to his boots. A weathered had shaded tired eyes that still carried something unspoken, something old, maybe broken. His beard was thick, his voice low but clear as he spoke. "Ma'am, I don't mean no trouble. Just looking for a place to rest. Just tonight." Emma didn't respond right away. Instinct made her cautious. But the man made no move to step closer. He stood like someone who had been turned away before, perhaps too many times. She studied him. Tall, lean, posture proud despite the grime. There was a strange dignity in how he waited, not begging, not demanding. Just asking. She glanced toward the barn, then back to his eyes. Something in them struck her, not fear, not deceit. Just quiet desperation held tightly under layers of dust and restraint. "You can stay on the couch," she said at last. "But only tonight." He nodded with gratitude, stepped inside, and removed his hat. The light revealed more than dirt. A thin scar near his left temple. Fingers rough like a ranch hand's, but movements refined. She pointed to the couch by the fire and went to the kitchen without another word. Dinner was simple, soup and cornbread. He accepted it with thanks, ate slowly, every bite deliberate. He didn't speak unless spoken to, and even then he offered short, thoughtful replies. He never mentioned his name. When she asked where he came from, he simply said, "Nowhere worth remembering." But Emma noticed things. The way he complimented the seasoning, how he glanced at the books on her shelf, the way he gently set his bowl down without clatter. He wasn't just some drifter. Later, as he settled onto the couch, blanket tucked over his legs, Emma lingered in the hallway. A strange unease had replaced her initial fear. Not from him, but from the question now whispering in her mind. Who was this man? And why, in all the lonely corners of the world, had he come knocking on her door? She turned off the light but couldn't shake the feeling that fate had just stepped into her home, covered in dust and carrying secrets. Morning sunlight broke over the horizon, stretching long golden fingers across Emma's land. She stood at the kitchen window, arms folded, watching the stranger she'd let into her home just hours before. He was already outside, no prompting, no hesitation. The man moved like he belonged there. Axe in hand, he split logs with practiced ease, the blade landing with precision, never wasteful, never rushed. He stacked the wood neatly near the porch, pausing only to wipe sweat from his brow. Then he wandered to the barn where her old dog greeted him like an old friend. Even the horses, usually skittish with newcomers, leaned in when he passed. Emma observed quietly. His manner was calm, focused. He spoke softly to the animals, using gestures she hadn't seen since her grandfather's time. Like someone who grew up working land, not just surviving it. But who was he really? And why had he shown up on her doorstep? She asked a few harmless questions over breakfast, but his answers were vague. Just passing through. Used to work ranches. Nothing specific. No names, no hometowns. He deflected gently but always returned to silence. Still, there were slips. That evening, as they sat over stew and bread, he remarked on the northern fence line. Said it had been moved years ago after a border dispute with the county. Emma froze. That detail wasn't public knowledge. Only someone with access to old maps or deep local history would know it. She masked her surprise, nodded slowly, and changed the subject. But her thoughts spun. Later that night, after he'd turned in, Emma pulled out an old tin box from her closet, clippings, photos, bits of town history she'd gathered over the years. She spread them across her table under the kitchen light, flipping through faces, events, forgotten headlines. And then she found it. A photograph. Nearly a decade old. A younger man, polished and proud, standing beside a county commissioner. Richard Langston, land tycoon, donates 500 acres to wildlife reserve. Her eyes moved between the photo and the couch where the stranger now slept. Same build. Same eyes. Same scar on the left temple. Her breath caught. Could it be? Richard Langston had vanished without a trace 8 years ago. Just walked away from his empire, leaving behind rumors, lawsuits, and silence. The county speculated everything from foul play to a private escape. And now, somehow, a man who matched him perfectly was asleep in her living room, wearing rags instead of designer suits. Emma didn't sleep much that night. Questions pressed in from all sides. If it was him, why now? Why here? And why was he hiding? One thing was certain. This wasn't just a stranger passing through. He carried more than weariness in his silence. He carried a story, and Emma was now part of it. The morning sun filtered weakly through the curtains as Emma sat at her kitchen table, a faded newspaper spread before her. The headline was barely visible but unmistakable. Richard Langston, billionaire landowner, disappears without a trace. The photo was of a younger man, impeccably dressed, confident, and sharp-eyed. The kind of face that dominated headlines and boardrooms. Emma's fingers trembled slightly as she traced the scar just below his temple in the photo. The same scar she'd seen on the stranger's weathered face. The pieces were aligning, but she still hesitated to believe it fully. Could the broken man she'd taken in really be the missing tycoon who vanished years ago? Determined to find out, she dialed Mr. Walter, the town's elderly librarian and keeper of local lore. He'd been here longer than anyone, witnessed the rise and fall of families, and knew the stories that newspapers never told. When Walter arrived, his eyes locked onto the stranger outside Shoppingwood. "That's Richard Langston," Walter whispered, voice trembling. "I never thought I'd see him again." Emma's heart pounded. She led Walter inside and showed him the photos and articles she'd gathered. Walter nodded slowly, his expression grave. "Langston was more than a businessman," he said. "He was a pillar of this county, owned half the land, controlled most of the industry. Then he just vanished. No explanations, no goodbye. Some thought he'd been killed or run off, but no proof ever surfaced." Emma watched as Walter recounted rumors of betrayal, financial ruin, and personal heartbreak. It painted a different picture than the man she'd met, someone stripped of his fortune but still standing strong in spirit. Later, Emma found Richard sitting quietly on the porch, gazing out over the sprawling fields he once owned. The weight of years and secrets pressed down on him, but there was a flicker of something else, a recognition, perhaps, of the life he had left behind. She approached him gently, her voice soft. "Why did you leave everything?" Richard's eyes met hers, steady but weary. "I lost more than money," he said. "I lost trust. And for a long time, I lost myself." Emma realized the man before her wasn't running anymore. He was hiding, healing. But questions remained. What had driven him away? Could he ever reclaim what was lost, or was this quiet life the only future he dared imagine? The sun dipped lower, shadows stretching across the land Richard once ruled. Emma felt a profound connection, not just to the mystery unfolding, but to the man who had trusted her enough to walk through her door, seeking shelter from a past no one else dared speak of. Their story was just beginning, and Emma knew the days ahead would reveal truths that could change both their lives forever. The afternoon light spilled through the kitchen window as Emma took a deep breath and approached Richard. The newspaper article was folded carefully in her hands, a tangible piece of his hidden past. She laid it on the table between them, the headline stark: "Richard Langston, billionaire tycoon, disappears without a trace." Richard's eyes didn't waver as she spoke, her voice calm but steady. "Why did you leave it all behind?" For a long moment, he said nothing. Then the mask cracked. His rugged exterior softened, revealing a vulnerability Emma hadn't seen before. Slowly, he began to speak, not of riches or fame, but of betrayal. His closest business partner had turned on him, orchestrating a hostile takeover that destroyed everything he'd built. The betrayal wasn't just financial. It was personal, a fracture that shattered his trust and spirit. Unable to face the world that had turned its back, Richard chose to vanish. He gave away his possessions, abandoned his fortune, and set out on a journey to find peace in the simplest of things. He drifted through small towns, worked as a laborer, a cook, a ranch hand, jobs that kept him hidden, grounded. Cameras and headlines were foreign to him now, replaced by quiet mornings and honest work. Emma listened in silence, her heart swelling with a mix of sympathy and admiration. The man before her wasn't broken, he had reinvented himself, carving a new life from the ruins of the old. His strength lay not in wealth, but in resilience. "I won't tell a soul," Emma promised, meeting his gaze. "You can trust me." Richard nodded, gratitude flickering in his tired eyes. "Thank you. You're the first to see me as a man, not a name or a headline." Curiosity tugged at her next question. "What will you do now?" He paused, uncertainty in his voice. "I don't know. I've spent so long running, I haven't thought about what comes next." Emma smiled gently. "Maybe it's time to stop running." For the first time, Richard allowed himself to imagine a future not dictated by loss or fear. With Emma's kindness as an anchor, the possibility of healing seemed real. The journey ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, hope flickered. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm hues through the window, two lives, once strangers, had begun a new chapter. One built not on wealth or status, but on trust, redemption, and the quiet power of human connection. The morning sun rose gently over the horizon, bathing the porch in soft, golden light. Emma and Richard sat side by side, mugs warming their hands as quiet comfort settled between them. The man who once arrived cloaked in dust and silence now looked different. Clean-shaven, his clothes neat, his gaze calm and clear. There was peace in his demeanor, a quiet strength born from the journey he'd endured. Richard reached for his coffee, savoring the warmth. The simple rituals of the morning no longer felt foreign. For the first time in years, he wasn't running from his past or hiding from his future. Instead, he was beginning to build something new, something that mattered. From the porch, Emma's eyes drifted toward the barn. It had been neglected for years, but lately life was returning. Richard had spent his days restoring old farm equipment, oiling rusty tools, and repainting weathered boards. Quietly, without fanfare, he had also organized donations, fresh food, and supplies delivered anonymously to the local food bank. Small acts, but powerful ones rooted in gratitude and hope. Though his fortune remained untouched in distant accounts, Richard had chosen a different kind of wealth. Connection, community, purpose. With Emma's guidance, he started investing in the town's future, not with headlines or grand announcements, but with humility and care. Together, they planned projects to support families, improve schools, and preserve the land he once owned in name only. Emma smiled, knowing the real transformation wasn't in the money or the past life left behind, but in the man sitting beside her. Someone who had lost everything and found himself again. The tycoon who once commanded power had traded it for something far more valuable. A chance to give back, to heal, and to belong. As the sun climbed higher, casting warmth over the fields, Emma reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought them here. How a simple act of kindness, opening a door to a tattered cowboy, had unraveled a story of loss and redemption. Sometimes, the most broken people carry the richest truths. And sometimes, it takes only one person to see beyond the dust to the soul beneath. Their story was far from over, but this new beginning was a testament to hope, to second chances, and to the unexpected paths that lead us home. If you enjoyed this story, ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing, heartfelt stories like this. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us where you're watching from and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Emma's kindness and Richard's journey? Have you ever experienced a moment where a stranger changed your life? Your stories and opinions matter to us. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an inspiring tale. Thanks for being part of our community, and we'll see you in the next story.